right. Today we have Colby with us, who is the VP of Revenue at Bardeen. And the reason this episode is very special because Bardeen was one of the first few tools that was built for data and automation and for GTM and DevOps team. Bardeen is widely popular, and I'm sure that you guys see a lot of automations which are working, which are not working. And today I would love to go over few of such automation that you believe are very powerful. So if you are a GTM or RevOps person and you want to be in the top 1%, today's episode is for you. Kalvi, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and thanks for being one of the OGs. We're almost 5 years old at Bardeen. This year we will turn 5, which is, in the world of AI startups, that is quite a mature age. So we're really excited for that milestone.
Before we get started, do you want to talk a little bit about your role?
Sure. Yeah, I joined Bardeen a little over 6 months ago to lead everything on the business side of the organization. So I lead global marketing, sales, support, customer success. In functions aside, what that really means is I'm in charge of really growing revenue and ensuring that we can go from a level of consumer product market fit that we've gained over the last 4 years to enterprise product market fit, ideally in 2025. So that's a project that I was really excited about, and an opportunity to join Pascal and Artem, the 2 co-founders here, who I had known previously actually through some connections at my last company. So I was very excited to jump in. And so far, so good. In 6 months, we've repositioned the company as a go-to-market co-pilot tool. We have relaunched the product with that type of user experience. We have built a sales-led business somewhat from scratch. And then we've also adjusted our pricing model, and we have another new launch coming in a few weeks that we're really excited about. So there's a lot happening.
The first question I want to ask is, there's a lot of now momentum in this space, which is super exciting. But sometimes if I'm a person who is setting up my GTM team or RevOps team, it might be too much of information to understand which tool to use when, if I have a very lean GTM team versus a very heavy RevOps team. Now, do you want to give me a simple version of how to think about it?
Yeah, I think if you're a young company with a small go-to-market team and you're looking to build out your sales ecosystem or go-to-market ecosystem for the first time, what's really important is having a CRM that works. That's maybe the first question. Like, where does everything end? Where does everything go? What is your source of truth? I think once you have answered that question and you have a decent understanding for how you might theoretically acquire customers, or how you want to go and try to acquire customers, you need to have an efficiency solution to automate that stack. I think right now there is a lot of, and this will be a bit of a spiky point of view, but there's a lot of VC-backed hype in the early stage startup space about the many different fragmented tools that can do singular tasks for you within go-to-market automation, right? There are a lot of great enrichment tools. There are a lot of great intent tools and signal tools. There are a lot of great sequencing tools, some more legacy tools, some very new tools that have come out over the last few weeks that are gaining popularity. And ultimately, I think a lot of the industry is motivated by that hype. And so a lot of startup founders feel as they maybe even feel pressure to buy a few of these tools or test a few of these tools to figure out what's really going to work. But ultimately, what I've experienced as a revenue executive now at 3 different startups is it's the efficiency solutions that win. It's the efficiency solutions that get you the larger contracts, that get you the longer term contracts. And then the other thing I'd say, this is back to that maybe spiky point of view, is a lot of this VC hype in the startup world is very much not happening in the enterprise. There's still a very wide gap between exposure to go-to-market automation tooling, between even scale-up companies, and certainly in the enterprise, versus what you get in startups. So that's a little bit of a roundabout answer, but what I would say to a startup founder is you want to find a single tool that's going to help orchestrate the customer journey that you think that your customers will need to go on and should work very well with your CRM and your source of truth.
Perfect. And this actually leads to another question. Like, Bardeen has gone through a little bit of a journey. I think initially it was a Chrome extension, but I think you guys have built a lot of features added. Can you just give us a rundown on where it stands now and what are the top capabilities that you guys are like right now believe getting the most traction?
Yeah. First of all, we're still a Chrome extension, which is actually part of the power of our tool. So we're able to orchestrate automations across anything you do on the internet. So this horizontal positioning that Bardeen launched with 4.5 years ago is still very much ingrained in the product experience. You can still, scrape information off of any website on the internet, assuming that you can scrape information off of that website, right? So there is still a wide array of activity that you can do within Bardeen as a Chrome extension. But to your point, we have built many different kind of features or products within the Bardeen platform that can help you orchestrate automation. Right now, we have about 200 integrations with other tools across the tech ecosystem. That's one real kind of power of Bardeen. But then Bardeen itself, we've developed our own scraper tools. We've developed custom AI agent functionality that can allow you to deploy agents to different websites, databases, et cetera, to perform tasks. We have AI categorization tools that can help Bardeen make decisions on your behalf, which is very cool. So if you're looking for a tool to help you qualify leads, to help you conduct research, to help you perform analysis, we can do all of that using Bardeen's AI infrastructure. We, of course, have writing assistants, writing tools that we've developed in-house using our own LLMs in partnership with some of the other major providers that we partner with. And that's just really the beginning. There's also some basic functionality, right? If a component of an automation requires you to go and search the internet for something, we have core GPT search functionality that you could find within Bardeen's interface as well. So what we're trying to do is build a tool that's going to have a ton of flexibility for go-to-market teams to orchestrate just about any process, including decision-making that they need to orchestrate across their tech stack.
So we'll jump onto the interesting part. Okay, so I'm sure that you guys see lots of automation. What would be interesting to understand is maybe 2-3 automations that you believe is working really well in 2025, 2024, so that people can start with that. Maybe they can start exploring those things. So maybe whatever is your favorite top 3, let's go ahead with those.
Sure. We pivoted our product at the end of January. It's now the beginning of March. So it is going to be focused on 2025, but I can actually get to, if you want me to talk about why we pivoted, I can certainly talk about that as well. But the most popular automation today is by far sales outreach. It is around outbound lead sourcing and sales automation. We've had, since our relaunch in January, we've had something like 600 or 700 demos. I'd say about 98% of them are doing sales outreach. I think it's a natural thing that you're going to see in our space is the prospects or customers want to see that money-making type automation where the ROI is crystal clear. A lot of the customers who will sign on for us with those use cases will also end up expanding into other areas where we can be very helpful. Some of those, and I know you saw one of my LinkedIn posts that actually wrote some of these out, but one of those that's very popular is around research. And generally speaking, a lot of our customer teams or account teams that are using Bardeen will use Bardeen on a regular cadence, so weekly, monthly, to go through their entire account base and determine which of those accounts are in a position to grow, potentially in a churn position where there could be some risk, or with no status update, using a collection of our scraper models, our research assistant, our categorizer, in order to conduct all of this research completely automated, completely in the background. with an output of something like a Slack message that shows each of your 10 key accounts and where they're positioned, or we can even mobilize that into sales outreach if we want to. That's a very popular one. And then another one that's really captivated a lot of our more sort of executive teams that use Bardeen is around, what did I call it in the post? Around leadership visibility. One of our key customers, key accounts, they get a Monday morning update. They've identified 8 key competitors, and they're a very well-known company that the two of us know very well. So their 8 key competitors are actually, when I learned that, having signed an NDA, I was very surprised by some of the competitors they listed out, but it was interesting. What they do is they use Bardeen to go out to each of these 8 competitors' public-facing content sources, so LinkedIn content, all of their kind of leaders on LinkedIn and their content, job postings, website, product updates, and you deploy Bardeen to go and call all of these sources for data once a week. And then they inject all of that data into our research categorizer to come up with a report to determine, over the last 7 days, has anything substantial happened within this organization that we as a competitor should be aware of? Have they launched new product updates? Have they launched new features? Have they changed their pricing? Is there a spike in hiring? Because all of those can be important signals that something has happened behind the scenes that maybe the competitor isn't yet aware of. So that's a real exciting one for a lot of teams. And the power of Bardeen and that type of automation is it would take an incredible amount of work to go and to research. In this automation I'm thinking of, it's something like 10 to 12 resources per company, and to pull data from each of those resources and make sense of it. It's not just the data, it's the analysis that we are also doing. That's really powerful. And then also turning that into a long form research report and turning that into a nice packaged Slack message for people to get a quick update is something we do fully automated.
Yeah, and also not only the resourcing, I think you have to train them, you have to manage them, you have to give them the tools. So this overhead is pretty big, right? Yeah. So I have one question. So does it happen like automatically every week, like without anybody touching, or is it like in the background kind of recurring thing, or somebody has to trigger it every week?
On the competitor intelligence, that is something that is completely automated every week. Nobody touches it.
Superb. All right. And just
you can choose to set a Bardeen automation as either manually triggered or automatically triggered. And when you set something to be automatically triggered, it can be on a time cadence. It can be based on some sort of a change in behavior. If a website data changes, you can trigger an automation based on that. So a lot of the research type use cases with Bardeen are fully automated.
I have one, I think this will be a practical question, which is like a lot of times these automations look amazing. The only challenge being the setup part sometimes becomes a little tricky, because for GTM team, just to have the tech know-how and then maybe writing the prompts and so on and so forth, little bit of that setup and so on. Do you believe that for a GTM team, just to implement Bardeen, they need to have some sort of an engineering horsepower, or at least someone from engineering team, or you believe that they need to hire a DevOps person, or maybe as a consultant or something? Do you believe that is needed, or a pure marketer can actually implement it?
A lot of our teams have this is the disclaimer section, then I'll answer the question. A lot of our teams do have an in-house resource that is doing some sort of go-to-market operations or RevOps or sales ops type work. However, we strongly believe teams should not be hiring additional resources to use our tool. That's a very strict point of view that we have. We have an in-house agency. When I say agency, it's actually AI agency, which is part of our new launch that we're doing in a couple of weeks, or now it's under 2 weeks. So when I say agency, think of the A as AI. It's, I don't know. We're trying to see if it's going to be funny or not.
This was really cool. This was really cool, because I was thinking about the agency direction.
It's pretty clever.
Typically, 2025, you have to think about agents. Yeah.
our product marketer is going to be very pleased with that reaction. So
Yeah,
thank you for that. Because when you look at it on the screen, it says AI agency, but we
yeah,
don't want to
agency,
say AI
yeah.
agency. That's very annoying. So it's agency. Bardeen, we have a team of engineers in-house who work with all of our teams and enterprise clients, which is two tiers of our product, for a set number of hours per contract. And so what that means is when someone's purchasing credits to use Bardeen for a business-worthy use case, a team use case, or any of these use cases that we've described, you're not just getting the fuel to run this system, but you're also getting the engineering resources to ensure that you have a hot start. And
True.
that we feel is, especially as someone who has purchased tools in this space myself, that is solving for what I think is possibly one of the largest issues in the category altogether, is the cold start problem. There are a lot of trials and tests and month-to-month type contracts that happen in go-to-market automation, and a lot of those fail because teams don't have the resources in-house, and then some of the providers require them or recommend to them that they hire an external third-party agency to support them. And that is very much not our belief at Bardeen. We believe that when you buy a plan with us and you start using Bardeen, you can have success and you can acquire leads on day one.
I think this is one of the most consistent question that I see, is that a lot of tools suddenly becomes like Salesforce, and then you need agency to implement that. In fact, there are agencies which are just coming up just to implement that tool. So I think that's where, if it's easy, I think there's nothing better than that. And I think all the videos
And,
and
and I'll,
tutorials and of that go a long way.
I'll just say I also I have friends in the agency world. I have great respect for agencies. I've worked with some remarkable agencies myself. I think agencies are really helpful when you need scaled support across a broader
True.
strategy. But if you're trying to deploy a tool and you need to hire an agency to deploy a tool, that's a very different problem in my mind. That's a product problem.
True. If you need an agency for an agent, then it's a little problematic. Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah,
completely understand that part. Okay. Yeah. Third, automation, and then I have one or two other questions. Yeah. What was the third
cool.
automation?
Oh, the I talked about the leadership competitor intelligence, but the third one was the account-based predictable growth piece that people are doing as well. Yeah. So a lot of our teams come to us with a top of funnel issue or a top of funnel problem to solve with Bardeen. They need more leads. But other customers will come to us and say, we have decent inbound, or 90% of our pipeline is generated through inbound. We really just need to figure out what's going on with our customers. And similar to how I described the competitor intelligence, you can run the same type of playbook on your accounts. And you're not just figuring out what's going on within the accounts, but you're also determining which of those accounts are in a position to grow. A lot of, especially early stage companies, if you're going through funding rounds, if you're in the middle of that type of world right now, you're probably concerned about NRR. Or if you're
True.
not, you probably should be. If you have a budding enterprise business, if you have B2B customers, those customers growing is going to continue to be extremely important. And a lot of our earlier stage companies have recognized that, and they're using Bardeen to orchestrate that in a much more predictable way. And then some of them are even going a step further. So they're having Bardeen do the research and then categorize which of their accounts are in a growth position. The power of Bardeen is you can take that data, and if somebody is marked as in a growth position, we could customize an email to be sent by the account manager congratulating them on whatever we saw in the research report that triggered that status update, right? So in theory, it's another kind of trigger/signals use case with Bardeen, utilizing real data and real information live from the internet, where if Colby, the account manager, is running the Salesforce account, I want to know when they suddenly post a major product update. Maybe that shows that they're in a position to grow their use of my product. Maybe that means that I should send them a quick note letting them know that I saw the news and I'm happy for them. And so a lot of companies are still they're too they're a little too focused on automating top of funnel and they're automating pre-sale, but some of these post-sale motions can be just as, if not more important in the long term automation priorities of the company.
And I think now with growing top of the funnel becoming so difficult, I think the more you elongate your LTV, I think the better off you are, because acquiring new customers is
Of
becoming
course.
very expensive. Yeah, I think this workflow should get more attention than probably a lot of other workflow.
What we see is more customers who are later on in the maturity scale will be interested in that sort of thing. A lot of the earlier stage companies are just coming to us because they need more leads, and we can help them with that. But what our job is to do is what Bardeen's job is to ensure that they get a highly successful, fast experience acquiring new leads that can then be parlayed into more of a robust, full go-to-market automation stack that they build with us.
Yes, I think we have last 3 minutes. I'll just quickly go to the last question. Can you tell us a little bit about the pricing part without even going into maybe the specifics? Because this is another question, another topic that we keep hearing, is that sometimes because of the enrichment, sometimes the cost can really go high. So how is Bardeen right now priced? Is it usage-based? Is it seats-based? Yeah.
Great question. We are still entirely usage-based as far as our pricing model is concerned. We have just gone fully transparent in pricing, actually, as of last week.
Oh.
So if you go to bardeen.ai/pricing, you'll see a full rundown of exactly what it costs to do what. We hope it's much less confusing than some of the other tools in the space, and also frankly, how we were before. So with Bardeen, the credit model is fairly straightforward. Every action that you utilize with Bardeen will cost you 1 credit, no matter what it is. So you mentioned enrichment. So with enrichment, for example, some other providers will cost different numbers of credits depending on how many enrichment tools you use in order to get a result. We charge you 1 credit, whether we use 2 enrichment sources to get you a result or 12 enrichment sources to get you a result. We charge you 1 credit every time, no matter what. We are also right now working on a bring your own key product to include on our upmarket plans. In addition to one action equals 1 credit. That is not going to change, and we will in the future allow customers to bring their own key. In the interim, what we do allow customers to do, if they'd like, is they can get the outreach automations, your CRM type automations, for free with Bardeen. Those are at no cost while we develop the bring your own key.
Superb. I think, yeah, usage-based is always that keeps it clean, and it's easy to also predict how much it's going to cost me. Yeah. All right, Colby, thanks a lot for doing this. We covered a lot of ground, and hopefully this will be helpful to your community. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me on. Great to meet you.